Good evening, Bahamas. On the broadcast tonight. The Prime Minister says the country will welcome displaced students of Dominica as that country seeks to rebuild from the ravages of Hurricane Maria. This as the Dominican Prime Minister makes a pit stop here in the capital. Plus, the National Security Minister weighs in on those recent teen murders. And we introduce you to a chic lifestyle boutique and cafe in Western New Providence.
Is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news, the weekend edition, and thanks for joining us. I'm Andrew Knowles. The Bahamas will offer assistance to Dominica in the wake of the widespread devastation left behind by Hurricane Maria. That according to Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, who announced today that the country will open its school system to accommodate displaced students of Dominica. Earlier this morning, Dr. Minnis, along with several cabinet ministers, welcomed Dominican Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, who made a pit stop here in the capital on his return from the United Nations in New York to his home country.
So we'll do all we can to assist because they've been devastated, and similar thing could have happened to us.
Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis pledged the Bahamas' support to the hurricane-ravaged Dominica on Sunday. Hurricane Maria unleashed her fury as a Category 5 storm on that island nation, leaving catastrophic damage. And now, Dr. Minnis says the Bahamas has offered assistance by welcoming displaced Dominican students into our educational system while that country rebuilds.
There would have been a lot of children that would have been displaced, and therefore we're opening our school system to accommodate them. And our immigration minister would deal with that matter so that they can be placed within our school system. And of course, I plead to Bahamians, especially with Dominican roots and Bahamians in general, to assist even to accommodate these individuals in the private schools. And I'm sure we have a lot of Bahamians out there who would assist in accommodating these individuals, both financially and otherwise.
The Prime Minister says this effort will begin soon, and government will work along with CARICOM to determine the numbers. Dr. Minnis added that some privileges will also be extended to family members of Dominicans who may be residing here in the Bahamas, for them to be accommodated with their relatives for a period of time.
A lot of people tend to forget that as we were developing and growing as a nation, it was Dominica and some of the other Caribbean nations that helped in our development. The police force was Dominicans, teachers were Dominicans, land and surveyors were Dominicans, other professional groups who helped our development were Dominicans. So they are part of our society. And for all intents and purposes, they are our brothers and sisters, and therefore it's essential for us to do whatever we can to assist in their rebuilding efforts.
Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, who made a brief visit in the capital this morning, expressed his sincerest appreciation to the Bahamas for its assistance. But he says it will take some time for Dominica to rebuild.
Well, this situation is still grim, it's still precarious. We have several people homeless, what our preoccupation now is to get as much food supplies and water to every household in Dominica. So we've been pushing this. We've gotten additional helicopter services because many of the communities are inaccessible by road. Some also have to be accessed by fishing boats. So we're using all means to take supplies to the people and to ensure that they're properly nourished and hydrated.
Experiencing Maria's wrath was a harrowing experience for the Dominican Prime Minister, as he too was personally impacted by the monster storm.
The fact is, the hurricane did not spare anybody. Everybody got impacted, and where I resided, the roof in fact went out. I was in the house, and eventually I had to get out to go to the basement. While the heavy winds and rain were on, but thank God I'm alive and I am able to provide some guidance for the reconstruction of my country.
And with other countries also being impacted by the storms, Prime Minister Scarrett says it will make getting aid to the country a bit more difficult. However, he is optimistic that organizations such as CARICOM and others will do all it can to help bring some relief to the island.
It will be a challenge because, even getting supplies out of Miami, because of the fact that Florida itself was impacted, it's a bit difficult there. But the benefactors are using all means necessary to assist us, and we're very grateful for that.
Meantime, the Dominican Prime Minister said Hurricane Maria left the country's medical facilities in war zone conditions. However, Dr. Minnis says despite the damage sustained to Dominica's main hospital, thanks to solarization, they are able to still perform some critical services.
The hospital is devastated, and there are patients who were on dialysis unit. And those units require electricity, and they were able to introduce solar systems for the dialysis units. So the dialysis units are running on solar, so those patients can be cared for. That is especially significant because we had just suffered devastation in the south, especially Ragged Island, and we've made a commitment to move towards solarization. So it's essential that the entire Caribbean seize this opportunity and move towards solarization of our nation.
Dr. Minnis believes that a shift towards solarizing our islands in the south will help in making them more resilient.
Climate change is a real issue, and that would be our contribution to diminishing the effects that we see today of climate change, because if we continue down this road, it's only a matter of time before storms are in excess of 200 miles per hour and our land below sea level, so we would be severely devastated. So it's essential that we move towards a green environment, not just the Bahamas, but the entire Caribbean.
In other news this evening, National Security Minister Marvin Dames is now addressing those residents in Fox Hill who became outraged after a number of shootings left 3 teens from their community dead. Our April Sands has the report.
Tragedy struck the historic Fox Hill community twice last week when 2 teen boys were gunned down in separate incidents. Weeks earlier, a man and a woman were shot outside a home on Abner Street. Rising crime in that eastern New Providence community did not escape the attention of National Security Minister Marvin Dames, who says police are ramping up patrols while placing a heavy focus on guns being smuggled into the country.
We understand that is one of the areas that continue to be an area of concern, and it just didn't started yesterday. This has been a problem now for some time, and we're very aware of it. We're not going to get everyone, and there will be those out there who will challenge us from time to time. But I just want to send a warning out there that we're not going anywhere. And we will pursue those who are engaged in the trafficking of firearms, the possession of firearms, those who are engaged in violent crimes. We will pursue them to the very end. And, that's what we intend to do.
The minister recently announced during his communication in the House of Assembly that crime was down by 19%. However, murder and attempted rape increased significantly. Dames says he is pleased with the efforts of the police, who have taken a number of guns off the street. However, he insisted there needs to be a focus on the retraining of every member of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. As he said, previous training has been inconsistent and lacking focus.
You're never satisfied because as long as there is a weapon out there, that's the potential of someone losing their life, and so you're never satisfied. And so, I'm communicating constantly with the rank and file of the police force, the executive team of the police force, and getting constant updates on strategy. This is, fighting crime is a very dynamic business. It changes by the minute. And there will be persons out there who will challenge you no matter what. The officers continue to do a tremendous job in taking weapons off of the streets. I think already for 2017, they would have taken in excess of 200 weapons from off of the streets. Over the past week, because of the stepped up initiatives, they were successful in taking maybe close between 15 and 20 firearms from off of the streets. That's just in a week's time.
Reporting for our news, I'm April Sands.
Well, police confiscating an illegal firearm along with ammunition from two men this morning. Police say it was shortly after 9:30 a.m. when alert officers from the Mobile Division were on routine patrol in the area of Anthol Road, Ridgeland Park, when they intercepted a Nissan Cube vehicle with two male occupants. The two men were accosted and they, along with the vehicle, were searched. During the search, a .45 pistol with a loaded magazine containing 10 rounds of ammunition was found. The two male suspects were subsequently taken into custody. Former Attorney General Allison Maynard Gibson says now that the election is over and people have voted for change, she thinks the Progressive Liberal Party did a bad job explaining the change it provided.
The PLP did, in my view, clearly a very bad job of explaining that what we did was change. We listened very carefully to what Bahamian experts were saying and the international agencies were saying about fiscal management. We seamlessly implemented VAT. That was major change. In political season, people suggested that there was something irregular about what had happened, and they knew full well that it was impossible for that to be the case.
Maynard Gibson says aside from implementing value-added tax that brought major change, the PLP could have done a better job emphasizing Bahamar, BAMSI, and the University of the Bahamas.
On Bahamas, another example, insinuations that there was something improper and irregular about the Bahama transaction. Bahama, nothing changed. And I can go on and on and on. And so what the point that I want to make is that it is very clear that we look back that the efforts that were made by the PLP for the benefit of building the Bahamas and for Bahamians were excellent efforts.
Gibson says she hopes the Minnis administration will bring the change it promised.
We have national health insurance, and there was money to pay for it. We have BAMSI, we have the University of the Bahamas. Bahamians, we would not bring in Bahamians along with it, and Bahamians were yearning and still are for change. I'm hoping that now that the election is behind us, that we'll get on with building these institutions and bringing our people along on this journey in this magnificent country that is a change journey.
Well, we'll take a break here, but still ahead tonight. After dishing out $250,000 to one lucky customer, the CEO of a major web shop hopes people will begin to see gaming houses in a more positive light. That story and more when our news returns.